Yo, what's good YouTube? It's boardzy, and this is going to be a review of the Lamzu THORN. This is going to be Lamzu's second ever shape. Obviously they have the Atlantis, and this is the THORN, their 52-gram ergo mouse. Obviously has a 3395. It is 4K compatible. I'll get into the details later, but this is one of the few EC clones we see, or no, one of the few ergo mice we see releasing that is not an EC clone. It is actually its own ergo shape. I would say it's most similar to the Wise Owl OGM Pro, which is a mouse I have covered, but it is a bit more niche. But you can see how the left side curve is much more significant on the Lamzu THORN, which is just really a big difference between these mice. But yeah, it does not feel in the hand one-to-one like any ergo mice. It does have a high like back hump presence, but it doesn't quite feel like a G703, so unfortunate for the G703 enthusiasts. Differences in profile between the THORN and something like the Zowie EC3 and the Death Adder V3 Pro. You can see that compared to the EC, it just doesn't like slope down as sharply. There is going to be much more presence, which I would say makes it better for maybe relaxed claw or palm grip, depending on how you grip the mouse. Really not going to be a option for fingertip. And compared to the Death Adder V3, it just feels like it's a lot more compact. It's shorter and also higher profile, kind of similar to like how the Vaxi Outset AX compares to some mice, but it just doesn't have a similar feeling in hand to that either. I would say I am a lot more comfortable and feel like my overall hand is supported better for claw grip by the Death Adder V3 Pro, and it's just something with every ergo mouse. I just can't like them or feel as comfortable with them as I do the Death Adder V3 Pro, but that's just my personal experience. So yeah, I would imagine the THORN is going to be good for people who have more relaxed grip styles. If you want an ergo mouse that is high profile throughout the mouse, it could be an option. Has a lot of smooth but pretty significant curvature. Obviously it is going to vary hand to hand, but I just feel like grip styles that apply less pressure are going to be better. If you play like a tracking heavy game, maybe something like Apex, I would imagine you're going to have a good time if this shape fits like a glove for you. But for me, it just kind of felt like an average kind of safe ergo shape where I was getting a grip style I was comfortable with, but just not as good as something like the Death Adder V3 Pro. And I would say if you're looking for just a traditional wireless EC clone, wait for maybe the Pulsar X-Lite V3 to come out. Obviously, Ponage Stormbreaker is a thing, or if you're just fine with the Zowie experience, go with the fucking Zowie EC2 wireless. But yeah, obviously the THORN is going to be different, which is not a bad thing, but it just kind of reminds me of why I find ergos so meh generally, because it is going to be a bit more restrictive than the mice that I am typically used to, and I just prefer something like the NPO1S, which just feels a lot lower profile in hand. It still does have curvature. It is an off-ambi mouse, but yeah, it's just not a full-on clunky ergo experience. But if that is what you're looking for, again, nothing really wrong with the THORN, and I'll get into some of the other features now. It is using optical switches, moving on from the Huano blue shell pink dots they had in the Atlantis. I'll do a little sound test compared to some of the other opticals. These are Razors, and these are Pulsar's new opticals. I'm not going to lie, the Pulsar and Lamzu implementation feels near identical, but the actual like mouse structure does seem to be a bit more questionable on the Atlantis. There is just like all of this room for post travel, just considering the fact there's already so much wobble, and if you click towards the top there is going to be a decent amount of pre-travel, but it does contribute to giving the clicks a kind of light feeling. But I'm not going to lie, for an optical implementation, these are not the sharpest. They feel kind of dull, but then again, so do the clicks on the Death Adder V3 Pro, so it's just kind of a trade-off for using opticals. I would say they're light, and once I got access to a driver and turned the debounce down to 0 ms, because for some reason they optical switches come with an 8 ms debounce setting. I can't wrap my head around that, but once I lowered it, the responsiveness felt a lot better. So performance-wise, I really have no concerns. The only thing I question is how these will stand up to long-term use, but then again, this is only a pre-production unit, so some of the concerns may be addressed on the mass production batches. So yeah, that's that for the clicks. It is cool to see them move towards opticals, though I think that's kind of going to become the industry standard. Now moving on to the scroll wheel, it's going to be using a TTC silver encoder. I'm honestly not sure what all of the scroll wheel drama is. I thought TTC golds were good enough, the dust-proof edition, but it seems like companies are now moving to TTC silvers. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is just going to be a very average scroll wheel implementation. The click is on the heavier side, but I use this to ping things, and I really have not had any problem. As you can see, though, the scroll wheel does not protrude from the mouse a lot, but I've really had no issues accessing it. It's at a pretty convenient place, so just wanted to mention the scroll wheel because so many people have QC issues with those now, and I've not had anything yet really across any mice. Now the side buttons, people were noting that these were big, and that is undeniably true. The quality on them is pretty good as well. There is a little bit of creaking if I press down super hard, but like even when spamming these in Fortnite, I don't have any issues, and it is nice to hit with this like side joint on my thumb. It's not too like far towards the back on the mouse, which is a problem that some ergo mice run into, but I would just say they feel ever so slightly less premium than the side button implementation on something like a Zowie mouse or the Death Adder V3 Pro. Yeah, really no problems. They're responsive, they're clicky, they feel consistent, but if you are used to the absolute best of the best, it might feel like a very minor downgrade. The coating on this mouse is Lamzu's best yet. It's not a super rubberized coating like a Endgame Gear coating, for example, but they've moved on from their chalky coatings and the standard uncoated plastic they used on some of the original Atlantises. But yeah, I would say that this is going to be really grippy out of the box. They do provide grip tape as well, but I think Lamzu's grip tape is a little bit thick. And I mean, hey, if you want to put that on this mouse, fucking God bless. And yeah, all of these features combined with the low 50-gram weight, which is very well balanced, and it's just something we have not seen a lot with ergos. Obviously, the Ponage Stormbreaker is $180, and that is the only ergo mouse around 50 grams that we have. So the Lamzu THORN being this light is pretty fucking crazy, and it feels really good in the hand. It feels extremely light. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the extra PTFE they have on the bottom of the mouse in the middle contributes to like just a very balanced glide feeling. On faster pads, it's just going to feel like almost effortless to move around. So yeah, it's an ergo mouse that's going to have a strong presence in your hand, but it's not going to feel dense whatsoever, which is just a pretty unique feeling. So I would say it's really good in that regard. The tech in it is a 3395. It is 4K compatible. I could not figure out how to unpair the 4K dongle from my old Atlantis, but I'm sure by the time like launch rolls around, they will have the pairing like all figured out, but it is not going to ship with a 4K dongle. So yeah, all of my time on this mouse was spent with 1K polling rate with motion sync. I'm not gonna lie, it was not a terrible experience. I'm not gonna rehash my opinions on 4K every video. I obviously do think it is better. I prefer, I notice a difference, but 1K with a Nordic MCU, consistent polling, good implementation, that is not going to be the reason you're dying in games. So I just don't think 1K polling is the end of the world, and this is obviously compatible with the 4K dongle down the line. And yeah, I'm really not sure how much else there is to cover about the Lamzu THORN. As I said before, this is a pre-production unit, so don't take what I'm saying as gospel for how the mass production units are going to be. They could very well be a lot worse. And I didn't even talk about the build quality. It is solid compared to the Atlantis, where I had some creaking on the recent 4K versions. The shell on this, there's really nothing for me to be concerned about. Obviously the bottom, I'm not gonna fucking test the structural integrity on that, but it seems pretty good as well. So the sidewalls do seem to be pretty well reinforced, not a lot of creaking over there. The clicks, like I mentioned, there is a lot of room for post travel and some wobbling already, so not 10 out of 10 quality in that department, but everything else is definitely more than passable for a $90 mouse. I think it's hard to say that like you're getting fucked over by Lamzu if you decide to go for this, because when you look at it as the entire package, nobody else is really putting out an ergo mouse this light for under $100. So if you are interested in the shape based off of what I described, I would say go for it, but it's definitely not going to be something that I come back to. It's just an ergo mouse that did not click for me. Maybe once I get a production unit and get some more testing on it, or if they make a mini version in the future, it could be more suitable. But yeah, just because I don't like the shape does not mean it's the end of the world. But yeah, that's probably going to be all for my review of the Lamzu THORN. And yeah, I don't want to seem like I wasn't able to game comfortably with this mouse, but it's just something that would not be my #1 option to pick up out of just all of the mice I have access to. So if anything, it just makes me more excited for the Lamzu Maya, which is going to be their new ambi shape, which is not going to be similar to the Atlantis. So that's going to be all for this video. If you are interested, I think the mouse is available for pre-order. Not sure when it's going to be shipping out, but I'm sure that information is accessible. But if you enjoyed the video, want to see more mouse reviews in the future, do be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Peace.